Good afternoon. My name is Ellie McClendon, and this afternoon I'll be discussing the Kuchar and Keith Spiegel's 2008 ethical decision-making model to guide my ethical decision-making process surrounding the case of a newly registered psychologist and a 19-year-old female client suffering from anxiety, depression, and eating disorder symptoms. Here are some further case details, and now I'll go into the decision-making process. So stage one involves discussing what the ethical dilemma is. The ethical dilemma present in this case study is the conflict between autonomy and professional competence. These two standards fall under the ethical principles of respect and propriety. In this situation, Fen has the autonomy to be involved in choices surrounding her mental health treatment, particularly whom she would like to treat her. However, I am apprehensive about continuing to treat her as I want to uphold the ethical standard of professional competence and ensure I am causing her no harm. Stage two involves consulting relevant APS codes and ethical principles. General Principle A, respect, and General Principle B, propriety, are at the forefront of this ethical dilemma. The ethical principle of respect refers to psychologists regarding people as intrinsically valuable and respect their rights to autonomy and justice. To uphold Fen's right to autonomy and independence to choose her own psychologist and treatment plan, I would be disregarding the principle of propriety. Propriety as an ethical principle ensures that psychologists are competent to provide the psychological services they are delivering and are aimed to benefit and not harm the client. If I continue to provide services to Fen, I may not be keeping within the boundaries of professional competence, as I do not have appropriate professional experience. Fen may not benefit from the treatment I provide her with, which could worsen her current physical and mental state. Stage three involves identifying factors and traps which could influence the decision. So the values trap refers to when core beliefs are conflicted with requirements to ethical codes and professional practice. At times, my values can conflict with abiding by ethical guidelines and codes. As a psychologist, I aim to be loyal to my clients. I would like to continue to build therapeutic relationship with Fen and practice with my core belief in mind. However, if I was to discontinue treating Fen and refer her elsewhere, I would be disregarding loyalty as a core value. I also strongly believe in individuals receiving appropriate and safe healthcare where required, due to my own experiences with a friend who was affected by an eating disorder. I watched her disregard health advice delivered by mental health professionals surrounding her, and as a result, her physical and mental health is still significantly impaired to this day. I strongly believe that individuals experiencing eating disorders are in a position where they cannot care for themselves, and this core belief could influence what decision I make about treating Fen in the future. Stage four involves evaluating the rights and vulnerabilities of all parties involved. So Fen as a client has a right to receive competent psychological care. She has a right to informed consent. She must be informed on her condition, ensure she understands the information delivered to her, gives consent voluntarily, and is competent to give consent to treatment. Fen has a right to autonomy and have a say in her treatment opportunities. Fen also has a right to confidentiality and privacy. At her age, there does not need to be contact with her family, as she is not as of harm to anyone in the community. The vulnerabilities for Fen include, because I am heavily involved in Fen's case, she is vulnerable to coercion, which features in standard A.2.1 of the Code of Ethics. She may be coerced to follow my instructions rather than being actively involved in her own decision-making. And this is a really key vulnerability. She may also be vulnerable to serious health consequences if she does not seek out the appropriate mental health care. As a psychologist, I have the right to provide adequate and competent care of a high standard. If I don't feel as though I can do this, I have the right to discontinue my service with a client and refer them on to someone else who is more experienced with the intent to cause no harm to my client. I do have the right to disclose Fen's situation to her family if I do believe she poses significant risks to her mental and physical well-being. I also have the right to practice self-care, have access to debriefing when required, and personal leave also. As a psychologist, I am vulnerable to burnout and occupational stress if Fen's situation becomes too complex and overwhelming for me to handle. I'm also vulnerable to incompetence due to a lack of experience in the treatment of eating disorders and being a newly registered psychologist. Stage 5 involves generating a range of actions. So for action 1, I could refer Fen on to a specialist agency for advice in this matter. This could be a referral to a psychologist or a psychiatrist who specialises in disordered eating. This would ensure her safety is assessed effectively, and she's surrounded by a mental health care team that could devise a treatment plan to best protect her physical and mental well-being. For action 2, I could continue to treat Fen under my guidance. I will inform her of the appropriate options, provide information on potential outcomes, my lack of experience in this area of psychology, and will ultimately set the boundary clear that it is up to her to pursue her desired treatment pathway. Stage 6 involves determining probable consequences of each action. Referring Fen on and discontinuing the therapeutic relationship could lead to multiple consequential reactions. A wealth of research has shown that terminating the therapeutic relationship has led to client ambivalence and anxiety about maintaining therapeutic gains, sadness related to separation and loss, pain associated with unresolved issues, confusion, and client tendency to defend against experiencing some of these feelings. Fen may feel distressed and confused with regards to being referred on. Because of Fen's history, where she has seen multiple psychologists before, Fen may lose faith in the mental health care system and disregard the new referral altogether, leaving her with no mental health care support. Do I have a duty of care to ensure that she receives mental health treatment, and does that take precedence over satisfying ethical standards B.1.2? Psychologists can only provide psychological services within the boundaries of their professional competence. B.3, psychologists provide psychological services in a responsible manner. C.1.1, psychologists avoid engaging in disreputable conduct that reflects on their ability to practice as a psychologist. However, the consequences of continuing to treat Fen under my guidance could also be very severe. Fen's condition may continue to deteriorate due to my lack of experience in the psychological treatment of eating disorders. Research has demonstrated that eating disorders, when not treated accordingly, can have severe irreversible impacts on physical and mental health, particularly on reproductive organs, skeletal systems, and immune systems in females, as well as the ongoing contribution to psychological morbidity. If Fen's condition continues to deteriorate and she does not receive appropriate health care, her physical and mental health could follow a similar trajectory. By treating Fen myself, it would ensure that she continues to receive psychological support, as I cannot guarantee she will continue to seek assistance if it isn't from a psychologist whom is myself. However, this would unfortunately mean disregarding multiple APS Code of Ethics principles. Specifically, standards B.1.2, psychologists can only provide psychological services within the boundaries of their professional competence. B.3, psychologists provide psychological services in a responsible manner. Stage 7 involves the deciding and acting accordingly on an action plan. Rachel's 1980 believes that the right ethical decision is the one that is backed up by the best reasons. In the case of Fen, the action plan I believe is the most ethical is to continue to treat her under my guidance. This is because I believe it will cause the least damage to her mental and physical health. I believe it would be more unethical for me to refer her elsewhere to receive alternative psychological treatment. If I discontinue treating Fen, I cannot guarantee that she will seek the assistance she requires, given her unsuccessful history with multiple psychologists in the past. Fen may lose faith in the mental health care system and refuse to see another psychologist altogether, and this could have a serious negative impact on her mental and physical health. Given the circumstances of Fen's case and myself having little experience treating individuals with eating disorders, I will aim to uphold professional competence by gaining supervision from a psychological professional who has a wealth of experience in this area of psychology. This will ensure I am basing my service on established knowledge, ensure FEN receives the most competent care possible, and I'm fulfilling the requirements of the APS Code of Ethics. Thank you.